Swadikap. Good morning. Television Put Thailand welcomes you to the live telecast of the Royal Merit Making Ceremony on the 50th day of Panya Samawan in dedication to the royal remains of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha, Narendiradebyavati, Krom Luang Rajasarinisiribajra, Mahavajrarajadhita at Piman Rattaya Hall in the Grand Palace. Today, Friday, the 31st of July, 2026. This is the second day of the Royal Merit Making Ceremony on this occasion. Your narrator is Captain Dr. Yongyut Mayalab, and you can listen to this live telecast narrated in English if your television set has a dual language system or via the website prdwe.prd.go.th and Facebook NBT World. So for this morning, the second part of the Royal Merit Making Ceremony will be presided over by their Majesties the King and Queen. The word Panya Samawan is a royal religious term used in Thai, Buddhist and court contexts, especially in royal funeral rites, the 50th day memorial observance following a death is the meaning of the word Panya Samawan. The passing of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha, Narendiradebyavati, Krom Luang Rajasarinisiribajra, Mahavajrarajadhita on the 11th of June 2026 mark a moment of profound sorrow for the Thai royal family and the people of Thailand. In accordance with ancient royal tradition, a series of sacred ceremonies were conducted with dignity and reverence, reflecting Thailand's enduring heritage and Buddhist faith. On the 13th of June 2026 at 3:55 p.m., the royal funeral procession conveying the remains of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha departed from King Chulalongkorn Memorial Hospital for Piman Rattaya Hall within the Grand Palace. Along the way, people were waiting to bid their last farewell to Her Royal Highness, who had dedicated her life for the betterment of the quality of life of the Thai people in all walks of life. His Majesty the King graciously granted permission for members of the royal family and designated persons to perform the royal bathing rite and pay their respects before the portrait of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati, enshrined at the Thai Samakom Pavilion within the Grand Palace. And between the 14th and the 16th of June 2026, His Majesty the King graciously granted permission for members of the public to pay their respects before the portrait of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha at the Thai Samakom Pavilion, Grand Palace. On the 14th of June 2026 at 7:32 a.m., Her Royal Highness Princess Mahavajrarajadhita performed a royal merit-making ceremony in dedication to the royal funeral of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha at Ampon at the Grand Palace. Between the 14th and the 16th of June 2026, His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen, accompanied by members of the royal family, presided over the royal funeral chanting ceremonies, Pra Apitham, for Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha's royal remains at Piman Rattaya Hall, Grand Palace. His Majesty the King also presented saffron robes to the congregation of monks as merit-making. The royal remains of Her Royal Highness is placed within the great golden royal urn, which is also placed under the 70th umbrella of state, befitting the royal status of Her Royal Highness. On the 17th of June 2026 at 5:14 p.m., His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen, together with members of the royal family, presided over the 7th-day merit-making ceremony, or Satamawan, in dedication to the royal funeral of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati at Piman Rattaya Hall, Grand Palace. On the 18th of June 2026 at 8:24 a.m., Their Majesties the King and Queen of Bhutan laid a wreath in homage before the royal funeral urn of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati at Piman Rattaya Hall, Grand Palace. Their Majesties the King and Queen of Bhutan also signed the Book of Condolence at the Songsi Watana Hall, Grand Palace. On the 18th of June 2026 at 10:07 a.m., His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen, together with member of the royal family, preside over the 7th-day merit-making ceremony, Satamawan, in dedication to the royal funeral of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati, Krom Luang Rajasarinisiribajra, Mahavajrarajadhita, at the Piman Rattaya Hall. On the 19th of June 2026 at 6:46 p.m., Her Royal Highness Princess Julapon Kromapra Sisawangkawat performed a royal merit-making ceremony in dedication to the royal remains of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati. Her Royal Highness poured lust water into a receptacle as a mark of the dissemination of merit made. On the 20th of June 2026 at 7 p.m., His Royal Highness Prince Viwatana performed a royal merit-making ceremony. A royal cousin perform a royal merit-making ceremony in dedication to the royal funeral of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati at Piman Rattaya Throne Hall. On the 22nd of June, Her Royal Highness Princess Julapon Krom performed a royal merit-making ceremony in dedication to the royal funeral of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha. On the 25th of June at 5 p.m., Their Majesties the King and Queen presided over the royal merit-making ceremony. Other members of the royal family also attended the funeral rite. Their Majesties the King and Queen presented offerings of saffron robes as well as the 4 items of necessities to the principal Sangha of the congregation. On the 28th of June in the morning, Their Majesties the King and Queen presided over the royal merit-making ceremony. And this was on the occasion of the 15th day following the passing of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati. Her Royal Highness Princess Siriwanwari Rajaganya and His Royal Highness Prince Tipankon Rasamichod also presented offerings to the congregation of monks, members of the cabinet, and high-ranking officials paid their respect in front of the royal remains of Her Royal Highness and also laid the wreath. These are the recordings of the funeral activities conducted by members of the royal family. For example, by Her Royal Highness Princess Atityathon Kittikun, Her Royal Highness Princess Mahavajrarajadhita, ท่านผู้หญิงพลอยพาลินเจนสัน and her family. The royal ceremonies commenced on the first day with the royal ablution ceremony, during which members of the royal family paid their final respects to Her Royal Highness. This was followed by the enshrinement of the royal remains in the royal urn at Piman Rattaya Hall within the Grand Palace, where the royal remains would lie in state throughout the mourning period. Military honors form an important part of the ceremonies. A guard of honor for the royal remains stood vigil, symbolizing loyalty, respect, and unwavering service to the monarchy. Each evening, Buddhist chanting ceremonies were conducted by monks from various temples of the kingdom, led by senior members of the Sangha. These ceremonies included the chanting of the Matika, the chanting of the Sadapakon rites on the receipt of saffron robes offering by Their Majesties the King and Queen and members of the royal family, and the chanting of the Abhidhamma scripture at intervals throughout the day. These sacred recitations serve not only to dedicate merit to Her Royal Highness, but also to remind all present of the Buddhist teachings on impermanence and the cultivation of wisdom. Throughout the mourning period, His Majesty the King, accompanied by Her Majesty the Queen and members of the royal family, graciously presided over a series of royal merit-making ceremonies held on significant memorial occasions, including the 7th day, 15th day, and 50th day memorial observances. And today is on the occasion of the 50th day following the passing of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati. These ceremonies embodied the Buddhist tradition of dedicating merit to the departed while expressing the profound love and remembrance of the royal family. During today, or yesterday, the first part of the 50th Day Memorial Observance, His Majesty presided over the merit-making ceremony, following the traditional changing of the seasonal attire of the Emerald Buddha at the Temple of the Emerald Buddha. Their Majesties then proceeded to Piman Rattaya Hall here, where the royal merit-making ceremony was performed yesterday evening before the royal remains. Yesterday, a highlight of the 50th day ceremony was the delivery of the Dharma sermon entitled Puccha Nanu Tappa Katha. The sermon centered upon the Buddhist teaching that a life guided by generosity, righteous conduct, self-restraint and self-discipline leads to lasting happiness and freedom from remorse. It further presented the life and royal duties of Her Royal Highness as a living example of these virtues, encouraging all who remember Her Royal Highness to honor her memory by following her exemplary conduct. As the royal ceremonies continue, they stand not only as expressions of grief and remembrance, but also as affirmations of the enduring values of compassion, virtue, wisdom, and public service that Her Royal Highness exemplified throughout her life. Through these ancient traditions, the nation joins together in paying its deepest respects while preserving a sacred heritage that has been faithfully maintained for generations. The royal sermon was delivered yesterday by Pratep Vajrapinan. He is the assistant abbot of Wat Pawanivet Vihan with responsibility for the propagation of Buddhism. Pratep Vajrapinan was born Mom Rajwong Nantawat Yukon in 1973, and he entered the monkhood as a royal ordinand in dedication of merit to His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great on the 4th of July 1995 at the Temple of the Emerald Buddha. The Puccha Nanu Tappa Katha, delivered during the royal merit-making ceremony yesterday for the royal remains of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati, Krom Luang Rajasarinisiribajra, Mahavajrarajadhita, takes as its central theme the Buddhist verse, by generosity, by righteous conduct, by self-restraint, and by self-discipline, one who acts accordingly lives in happiness and has no cause for remorse thereafter. The sermon teaches that those who live their lives through generosity, virtuous conduct, self-restraint and self-discipline attain true happiness and are free from regret in the future. It further explains that the law of karma is the natural law by which every action inevitably bears its corresponding result. The cultivation of these four wholesome qualities, Than or Dana or generosity, Samajariya or upright conduct, Sangyama or self-restraint, and Tama or self-discipline, constitutes a progressive path of mental development, beginning with selfless giving, continuing through the observance of moral virtue and restraint of body, speech, and mind, and culminating in the cultivation of concentration and wisdom, leading ultimately to freedom from suffering caused by attachment. The sermon also presents the life and royal duties of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati as a living embodiment of these four virtues. Through her work in law, justice, humanitarian service, diplomacy, and public service, Her Royal Highness exemplified the practice of Buddhist principles in action, concluding with the reminder that just as earthen vessels are destined to break, all human life is impermanent. The sermon encourages all those who remember Her Royal Highness to honor her memory by following her conduct, thereby cultivating happiness resilience, and lasting well-being in their own lives. According to the royal sermon, Pratep Vajrapinan says that he will deliver the Dharma sermon on Puccha Nanu Tappa Katha in humble response to the royal benevolence, to adorn the royal wisdom in a manner befitting the meritorious royal dedication on the occasion that His Majesty the King, together with Her Majesty the Queen, graciously presides over the royal merit-making ceremony, marking the 50th day memorial observance for the royal remains of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati, Krom Luang Rajasarinisiribajra Mahavajrarajadhita, whose passing into heaven has brought profound sorrow to His Majesty, the members of the royal family, and all the people. Throughout the 50-day period, the royal funeral ceremonies have been conducted under the royal patronage with dignity and honor befitting a princess of Siam who was truly loved by every Thai. Pratep Vajrapinan also said that Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati was born on Thursday, the 7th of December, 1978. She was the first daughter of His Majesty the King and Her Royal Highness Princess Somsawali Krommun Suttanarinath, and the first grandchild of His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great. She possessed the distinction of Ubato Sajati, being of noble royal lineage on both her paternal and maternal sides. She was deeply beloved by every member of the royal family. Upon entering the years of formal education, Her Royal Highness first devoted herself to the study of law, completing her bachelor's degree at Thammasat University and subsequently obtaining both her master's and doctoral degrees from Cornell University in the United States of America. She also qualified as a barrister at law of Thailand. Thereafter, Her Royal Highness pursued political science, earning a bachelor's degree from Sukhothai Thammathirat Open University. Pratep Vajrapinan said that Her Royal Highness began her public service by accompanying her royal mother in various duties, including work with the Thai Red Cross Society, which later led to the establishment of the Friends in Need of Power. Majesties, the King and Queen, accompanied by Her Royal Highness Princess Siriwanwari Nari Rajkanya, His Royal Highness Prince Tipankor Rasami Chod Mahavajrarajadhita Sri Vibun Rajakuman, and Chakun Pra Sininath Pilat Kalayani, the Royal Noble Court of His Majesty the King, departed by royal motor car from Amponsatan Residential Hall, Dusit Palace, to Dusit Mahaprasad Throne Hall. The royal motor car has arrived at the gate of the Dusit Mahaprasad Throne Hall beside the Rajakaranyasabha Pavilion. The Guard of Honor presented a royal salute, and the Royal Thai Army band played the royal anthem. His Majesty the King will now proceed to Piman Rattaya Hall and ascending the staircase of the connecting portico, also known in Thai as Mukrasan of Piman Rattaya Hall. And upon His Majesty's arrival at Piman Rattaya Hall, court officials will sound the victory gong, ceremonial conches, and trumpets will be played. The first ceremonial fanfare will be performed, and the Pipat ensemble will render the first performance of the slow ceremonial music. Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha stands before the royal throne. Tan Pu Ying Sirikitiyabha Jensen stands before her chair. His Majesty the King proceeds to light the incense and candles of the double-tiered golden offering tray in veneration of the Buddha image of Her Royal Highness' birthday before the royal altar and pays homage. This is the Buddha image associated with the day of birth of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha, Narendiradebyavati. And the Buddha image is associated with Her Royal Highness' days of birth corresponding to Thursday, depicting the Buddha seated cross-legged in the meditation posture. Official will now invite His Holiness to present the Buddhist precepts.
ติสรเนนะสหปัญจศีลานิยาจามะทุติยัมปิมะยังพันเตวิสุงวิสุงรักขณัฏฐายะติสรเนนะสหปัญจศีลานิยาจามะตติยัมปิมะยังพันเตวิสุงวิสุงรักขณัฏฐายะติสรเนนะสหปัญจศีลานิยาจามะ
โมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังสรณังคัจฉามิธัมมังสรณังคัจฉามิสังฆังสรณังคัจฉามิทุติยัมปิพุทธังสรณังคัจฉามิทุติยัมปิธัมมังสรณังคัจฉามิทุติยัมปิสังฆังสรณังคัจฉามิตติยัมปิพุทธังสรณังคัจฉามิตติยัมปิธัมมังสรณังคัจฉามิตติยัมปิสังฆังสรณังคัจฉามิปานาติปาตาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิอะทินนาทานาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิ ชาจาราเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิมุสาวาทาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิสุราเวรยามัจจปมาทฐานาเวรมณีสิกขาปะทังสมาธิยามิอิมานิปัญจสิกขาปะทานิสีเดนะทุกติยันติสีเดนะโภคสัมปทาสีเดนะนิพุติยันติตัสมาสีรังวิโสทะเยนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชชาจรณะสัมปันโนสุขโตโลกวิทูอนุตตรปุริสธรรมสารถิสัทธาเทวมนุษย์สานังพุทโธภะคะวะติสวากขาโตภะคะวะตาธัมโมเอติโกอะกาลิโกเอหิปัสสิโกโอปันญิโกปัจจตังเวทิตาโพวินโยหิติสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆอุจุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆยายะปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสามีจิปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆยะทิทังตัตตาริปุริสยุคนิอัตถปุริสปุคคลาเอสะภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆอาหุนายโยปาหุนายโยทักขินายโยอัญชลีกรณีโยอนุตตรังบุญญาเขตังโลกัสสะติมาหุงสหัสสมพินิมิตาสาพุทธันตังเทเมฆลังอุทิตโครสเสนมารังธานาทิธรรมวิธินาจิตวามุนินโทตันเตชะสาภวตุเตชยมังคลานิมาราติเรกมปิโยจิตสัพพรติงโฆรัมปนาลวะกมาธรรมทัตถยาขันขันติสุทันตวิคินาจิตวามุนิโนตันเตชะสาภวตุเต
สุธารุนันตังเมตตัมบุเสกวิทินาจิตวามุนินโตตันเตจะสะภวตุเตชยมังคลานิอุคิตถะกรรมติหัตถสุธารุนันตังทวันติโยชนะปะทังกุริมาละวันตังอิทิปิสังกตมโนจิตวามุนินโทตันเตภวตุเตชยมังคลานิกัตตวานกัตตมุตรังอิวะคาปินิยาจินจายโตตวัจนันชนะกายมัจเจสันเตนะโสมวิธินาจิตวามนินโทตันเตจะสะภวตุเตชยมังคลานิสัจจังวิหายมติสัจจกวาเกตุงวาทาวิโรปิธรรมนังอติอันทโพตังอัญญาปฏิปัจจริโตจิตวามุนินโทตันเตสานภวตุเตชยมังคลานินันโทปนันทบุจกังวิพุทังมหิทธิปุตเตนะเทระปุจเกนะธรรมาปยันโตอิโตปเทสวิทินาตวามุนินโทตันเตจะสะภวตุเตชยมังคลานิทุกขาทิทิบุจเกนะสุทัตตาตังพระมังวิโสติจุติเมติภกาภิธานังญาณกเตมวิธินาจิตวามุนินโทตันเตภวตุเตชยมังคลานิเอตาปิพุทธชยมังคลาอัตถกาทาโยวาจโนตินาติเนสรมตันติหิตวานเนกวิวิธานิตุปัตถวานิโมขังสุขังอธิกรรมัยยนาโรสปัญโยมหาการุณิโกลาโตอิยะสัพพปานินังปุเรตวาปารมีสัพพปัตโตสัมโพธิมุตตมังเอเตนะสัจจวัชเชนะโหตุเตชยมังคลังชยันโตติยานเลสักยานังนันทิวัฒโนเอวังตวันวิจโยโหหิจยัสสุจยมังคะเลอปราชิตปันลังเกเสโปคะเรอภิเสเกสัพพพุทธานังนาคาปัตโตวะโมวัตติกุณากาตังสุมังคลังสุภาภาตังสุโหติตังสุขโนโตจะสุยิทังพรหมจาริสุปทักขินังมังวาจากัมมังปทักขินังปทักขินังมโนกัมมังปณิติเตปทักขินาปทักขินานิกัตตวาละพันตัตเทปทักขิเนภวตุสัพพมังคลังรักขันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพพุทธนุภาเวนัสสทาโสธีภวันตุเตภวตุสัพพมังรากันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพธรรมานุภาเวนัสสทาโสธีภวันตุเตภวตุสัพพมังคลังรากันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพ
carriers to His Holiness the Supreme Patriarch and honorific monks at the level of Samdet Praraja Kana. The presentation of the precept was in 3 chapters. The first is to pay respect to the Lord Buddha, the homage to the Blessed One, the 3 refuges, and undertaking the 5 precepts. And upon completion, the 10 monks that chanted the Buddhist protective verses of Parita the previous day and are sitting on the monastic platform present their blessing. The congregation of honorific monks led by His Holiness the Supreme Patriarch comprises Somdet Phra Thirayan Muni, abbot of Narendiradebyavati Temple, Somdet Phra Puthacharya from Mahavajrarajadhita Temple, to name but a few. The officials are now taking the offerings of food in the tiffin carriers. Other members of the congregation of honorific monks include Somdet Phra Mahavajrarajadhita from Prachetipon Vimol Mangalaram Temple, Somdet Phra Mahavajrarajadhita from Rajapapit Mahasimaram Temple, Somdet Phra Maharajamongkol Muni from Traimitvidyaram Temple, Somdet Phra Mahavajra Muni Wong from Prasi Mahathat Temple, Somdet Phra Suthatsana Vajra Muni from Suthatevararam Temple, Somdet Phra Mahavajra Kundilok from Sampaya Temple, and Somdet Phra Vajra Ratanamoli from Paknam Temple. The officials are now proceeding to lay the auspicious long robe of cloth known as Prapusayong. This is the ceremonial connecting cloth. The royal ceremonial officers will also carry the Tui, which is the device used to support the Prapusayong, extending from the front area of the Suwan Benjadon throne. This Prapusayong is drawn from the base of the royal urn and passes over the Gan ornament in the front, and then descends onto the royal offering tray, also known as Pan Pramahakatin. And the Prapusayong serve as the symbolic connector between the monastic platform and the royal urn to symbolically transmit the merit made by the offering of 7 robes by His Majesty the King to the royal urns of the royal remains of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati. This royal funerary streamer is considered as an auspicious item of royal religious ceremonies. It's a long gold-embroidered cloth connected to the royal urn. Upon receiving the 7 robes offering, the monks will now chant Sadapakorn verses for the deceased.
Aditya vata sankhara upathavaya dhammino upachitava niruchanti te sangho pasamo sukho.
His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen will now pour lustral water on Taksinotok as a dedication of merit.
จิตตังปิติตังตุมหังคิปะเมวะสมิจตุสัพเพปุเรนตุสังกปาตันโทปนรโสยถามณิโชติรโสยถา
สัพพิติโยวิวัจจันตุสัพพะโรโควินาศตุมาเตภวัตวันตรายโยสุขีติกายุโกภวสัพพิติโยวิวัจจันตุสัพพะโรโควินาศตุมาเตภวัตวันตรายโยสุขีติกายุโกภวสัพพิติโยวิวัจจันตุสัพพะโรโควินาศตุมาเตภวัตวันตรายโยสุขีทีกายุโกภวะอภิวาทนาสีลิสเนจังโมทาปัจจายโนจัตตารโอธรรมวัฏันติอายุวันโนสุขังภะลังอัฏฐสิเมนะกาสิเมยาติเมตตาสกขาจะเมเปตานันทักขินังทัจจาปุเปกตมนุสสรังนาหิรุณนังวาโสโกวายายาปริเทวนานาตังเปตานามัตถายาเอวังเตติยาตโยอายัญจะโคทากินาทินนาสังฆามิสุปฏิทิตาติกราตังอิตายะสถานะโสอุปการปฏิโสยาติธรรมโมจะยังนิทัสสิโตเปตานะปูชาจักตาราปลัญจะภิกขุนมนุปเทนังตมอิปุญญังปัสสุตังนานาปการติ
อาติเลกาวัตสตังจีวัตุอาติเรกาวัตสตังจีวัตุอาติเรกาวัตสตังจีวัตุทีวายโกโหตุอโรโกโหตุทีวายโกโหตุอโรโกโหตุทุกิโตโหตุปรเมนมหาราชาสัพพะมราชินีอิติปิจังอิติปัมมังอิตินาโภเทโยนิจังปรเมน
สวัสดิพัฒนมงคลพระชนมสุขทุกประการจงมีแด่สมเด็จบรมบพิตรพระราชสมภารเจ้าทั้งสองพระองค์ผู้ทรงพระคุณอันประเสริฐเวลานี้สมควรแล้วอาตมาภาพทั้งปวงขอถวายพระพรลาแด่สมเด็จบรมบพิตรพระราชสมภารเจ้าทั้งสองพระองค์ผู้ทรงพระคุณอันประเสริฐขอถวายพระพร
Following the offering of the saffron robes by His Majesty the King, the congregation of monks responded by chanting the Sadapakon verses. Their Majesties the King and Queen then poured the lustre water as a gesture of disseminating merit made to the deceased. The monks then chanted Anumotana and Adirek or benedictions. As the first monk descends from the monk's platform, the court officials of the royal regalia will sound the ceremonial conches and trumpets. The second ceremonial fanfare will be performed, and the Pipat ensemble will render the second performance of Grau Ram. Court officials will now be inviting 11 monks from among the 47 monks designated to perform the Sadapakon rite in accordance with the age of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha, Narendiradebyavati, Krom Rajasarinisiribajra, Mahavajrarajadhita. The 47 monks participating in the ceremony that is about to take place, and they will be offered saffron robes by Their Majesties the King and Queen and members of the royal family. They come from temples throughout the kingdom, for example, Wat Patumwanaram, Wat Rajapatikaram, Wat Saket, Wat Prayun Wongsawat, Wat Kalayanamit in Bangkok, บ้านไร่ทอศรี Sangha Residence in นครราชสีมา วัดบึงพระลานชัย in ร้อยเอ็ด Province วัดเขียนเขต from ปทุมธานี Province วัดคลองวาน of ประจวบคีรีขันธ์ Province วัดบัวขวัญ in นนทบุรี Province วัดพัชรกิติยาภาราม in หนองบัวลำพู Province วัดวชิราลงกรณ์วราราม in นครราชสีมา Province วัดสมานรัตนาราม in ฉะเชิงเทรา Province วัดอมรินทราราม in ราชบุรี Province วัดบางพลีใหญ่กลาง in สมุทรปราการ Province วัดสิริวัฒนาราม in นครปฐม Province วัดตะโก in พระนครศรีอยุธยา Province วัดมหาธาตุ in เพชรบุรี Province and วัดไทยเชตวันและวันนี้ So the officials will invite altogether 4 groups of honorific monks. The first group will comprise 11 honorific monks, then followed by another 3 groups of 12 monks. one group at a time, to take their seats on the monastic platform and receive the offerings of saffron robes from His Majesty the King. The tradition of having monks equal in number to the age of the deceased chant prayers at the funeral or memorial has roots in ancient Buddhist merit-making and Thai royal monastic tradition. The practice of inviting a number of monks equal to the age in years of the deceased stems from Theravada Buddhist custom interwoven with Thai court and temple traditions. It reflects the principle of merit transference, that is, performing acts of merit and dedicating them to the departed. Each monk symbolizes one completed year in the life of the deceased. Thus, the total number of monks represents the fullness of the life lived. This gesture expresses both gratitude and a wish for continued blessings and peaceful transition in the next existence. In the royal and state funerary traditions of Thailand, the number of chanting monks traditionally matches the number of years in the royal person's age at death. So if the deceased was 90 years old, 90 monks would be invited to chant. This is especially seen in the royal funerals and royal cremations. This practice not only honors the individual's long life, but also signifies the completeness of their years in worldly existence, while invoking blessings for a peaceful passage to the next state of being. This practice of matching the number of monks to the age of the deceased is derived from the Vinaya and Suttas' repeated emphasis on the offerings and rites conducted before the whole Sangha, bringing great merit. This is symbolic of act of gratitude and completeness. So, in a moment, the offering of the saffron robes will be made by His Majesty the King to the next congregation of monks. 4 congregations altogether, totaling the number of 47, which is equivalent to the age of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati, Krom Rajasarinisiribajra Mahavajrarajadhita, who embodied grace, compassion, and unwavering service to her nation for decades. Today, Thailand mourns the loss of a beloved princess whose life was devoted to service, justice, and compassion. Her Royal Highness was not only a distinguished legal scholar, diplomat, and public servant, she was a source of hope for those whom society often overlook. Through her unwavering commitment to the rule of law, human dignity, and humanitarian service, she touched countless lives and inspired positive change both within Thailand and across the international community. Whether working to improve the lives of women and children, supporting disaster relief efforts, advancing justice for the vulnerable, or creating opportunities for those seeking a second chance in life, Her Royal Highness always led with wisdom, courage, and kindness. The true measure of her legacy is found not in titles or honors, but in the lives she uplifted, the hope she restored, and the dignity she bestowed upon others. Though Her Royal Highness has departed from this world, the light of her compassion and the example of her service will continue to guide generations to come. May Her Royal Highness rest in eternal peace, and may her memory forever remain in the hearts of the Thai people. Today, the people of Thailand and countless friends around the world mourn the passing of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati, a beloved princess whose life was defined by duty, intellect, compassion, and unwavering service to humanity. On the international stage, Her Royal Highness earned the admiration and respect of the global community. Her contribution to the development of the Bangkok rules transformed the way the world views women in the criminal justice system and remains one of Thailand's most significant contributions to international human rights.
ติฆาธัมมา
เหตุปัจจโย
อาลัมมัญญปัจจโยอันติปฏิปัจจโยอนันตรปัจจโยนรัมปัจจโยสัญชาตปัจจโยอัญญมัญญปัจจโยนิสยปัจจโยอุปนิสยปัจจโยภูเลชาตปัจจโยปัจจาชาต
ปัจจโย
อาเสวนปัจจโยกัมมปัจจโยวิปากปัจจโยลุงปัจจโยอินทรีรปัจจโยชานะปัจจโยมาคปัจจโยสัมปยุตต
ปัจจโย
วิปยุตตปัจจโยอาติปัจจโยนาติปัจจโยวิคตปัจจโยอวิคตปัจจโย
Deceased. The congregation among has now chanted the Matika verses for the deceased. His Majesty King is proceeding to make the offering of 7 robes to the congregation of 11 monks. In response, they will be chanting the Sadapakon verse, and their Majesties, the King and Queen, will then pour lustre water to dedicate the merit made to the deceased member of the royal family. This is the first group of honorific monks out of the total 4 groups, comprising 47 honorific monks from various temples throughout the country, participating in this royal merit-making ceremony on the occasion of the 50th day following the passing of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha.
อนิจจาวัฏสังขาราอุปาทวยธรรมิโนอุปาทิตวานิรุตตันติเตสังโฆสมโมสุโขยะถาวาริวหาปุราปริปุเรนติสากรังเอวเมวิโตทินังเปตานังอุปกัปปติอิจิตังปฏิตังตุมหังคิปะเมวสมิจตุสัพเพปุเรนตุสังกปาจันโทปนรสโสยะถามณิโชติระโสยะถาสัพพิติโยวันจันตุสัพพะโลกวินาศตุมาเตภวัตวันตรายโยสุขีติภายุโกภวสัมภิติโยวิวัญชันตุสัพพะโลกวินาศตุมาเตภวัตวันตรายโย สิเมอากาสิเมยาติมิตาสัพพะจเมเปตานังทาปินังดัสสะโภเกกันธมโนสลังนะหิโลนังอาโสโอยาวันยังปริเนวันดานาตังเปตานัมมันอายะเอวังเดทันติยาตโยอยัญญังโหทาปินาทินาสังฆังนุมบันเดนินดานเอกรัตตังหินดายาสันดานโสอุปังคามันดิโสยาติธรรมโมจะยังนิทัสสินโดเมตานบูชาจักนาราลาภลันจะภิกขุนมนุปันตินังตุมเกปุญญามันลุนดังอนัมปังคันเตอติเรกวัสสตังชีวตุอติเรกวัสสตังชีวตุอติเรกวัสสตังชีวตุทีฆายุโกโหตุอโรโคโหตุทีฆายุโกโหตุอโรโคโหตุสุขิโตโหตุปรเมนทมหาราชาสัปรมราชินีสิทธิกิจจังสิทธิกัมมังสิทธิลาโภชโยนิจังปรเมนทมหาราชวัสสะปรมราชินิยาสหภวตุสัพพทาขอถวายพระพรภวตุสัมปมังคลังรักขันตุสัมปเทวตาสัพพพุทธานุภาเวนัสสทาโสนิภวันตุเตภวันตุสัพพมังคลังรักขันตุสัมปเทวตาสัพพธรรมานุภาเวนัสสทาโสติภวันตุเตภวันตุสัพพมังคลังรักขันตุสัมปเทวตาสัพพสังฆานุภาเวนัสสทาโสติภวันตุเตขอถวายพระพรเจริญพระราชสิริสวัสดิ์พิพัฒนมงคลพระชนมสุขทุกประการจงมีแด่สมเด็จบรมพิตรพระราชสมภารพระองค์ทั้งสองพระองค์ผู้ทรงพระคุณอันประเสริฐเวลานี้สมควรแล้วอาตมาภาพทั้งปวงขอถวายพระพรลาแด่สมเด็จบรมบพิตรพระราชสมภารเจ้าทั้งสองพระองค์ผู้ทรงพระคุณอันประเสริฐขอถวายพระพร
Following the offering of the saffron robes by His Majesty the King to the congregation of monks, the monks chanted the verses of Sadapakorn. Their Majesties the King and Queen poured the lustre water as gesture of disseminating merit made to the deceased. The monks then chant Anumotana, the commendation of the merit made, Adirek, or the offering of the special blessings for their Majesties the King and Queen, and bidding farewell. Court officials will now invite 11 monks. This is the second congregation of monks from among the 47 monks designated to perform the Sadapakorn rite in accordance with the age of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati to take their seats on the monastic platform. The court officials are now unfolding the Prapusayong, which is the connecting long piece of cloth serving as symbolic connector between the monastic platform and the royal urn of the royal remains of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati. His Majesty the King would then present the saffron robes to the monks. The monks would then respond with the Sadapakorn verses. In the royal traditions of Thailand, when a member of the royal family passes away, a special and highly revered Buddhist ceremony is performed, and this rite is known as Sadapakorn, referring to a royal memorial chanting ceremony conducted exclusively for the highest members of the monarchy. Her Royal Highness, Her Majesty the Queen, graciously designated by His Majesty the King, is now presenting the offering of saffron robes to the congregation of 11 monks. During this sacred ritual of Sadapakorn chanting, monks recite passages from the 7 treatises of the Abhidhamma, the profound Buddhist teachings of the nature of mind, consciousness, and ultimate truth. This chanting accompanies a series of ritual offerings. It reflects a union of royal duty and spiritual devotion. Prapusayong has now been folded back onto the tray. Officials are now helping to convey the saffron robes offered to the congregation of monks. The second congregation of monks is now leaving the hall. The Sadapakorn chanting is not merely a ritual. It is an expression of love, continuity, and the enduring bond between the Thai people, the monarchy, and the Dharma, a tribute that is profoundly ceremonial, yet deeply human. I was early on reporting on the royal sermon delivered yesterday during the first part of the royal merit-making ceremony on this occasion of the 50th day following the passing of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati, Krom Luang Rajasarinisiribajra Mahavajrarajadhita, by Pratep Wachira Piman, Assistant Abbot of Wat Pawar Nivet Vihan. The honorific monk mentioned that Her Royal Highness began her public service by accompanying her royal mother in various duties, including work with the Thai Red Cross Society, which later led to the establishment of the Friends in Need of PAR Volunteers Foundation. Upon commencing her legal career as a public prosecutor, she served as Deputy Provincial Prosecutor in Udon Thani Province, where she had opportunities to engage in Dharma discussions with many monks devoted to the practice of Vipassana meditation. This enriched her understanding of the Dharma, enabling her to cultivate both serenity and insight meditation. Her work in the field of law also enabled Her Royal Highness to witness the suffering of prisoners in correctional institutions, inspiring the establishment of the foundation under Her Royal Initiative and subsequently the INSPIRE project, Corrections for Good, under the Royal Initiative for the benefit of the nation, religion and monarchy. And later Her Royal Highness undertook responsibilities in the field of international affairs, serving in the work of the United Nations and subsequently being appointed Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to the Republic of Austria, the Slovak Republic, and the Republic of Slovenia, respectively. As recounted in this account of Her Royal Highness' life, it clearly reflects the complete practice of the Buddhist path. Therefore, พระเทพวชิราภินันท์ cited the following verse, which appears as the summary verse in the Kuttaka Nikaya Shadok. By generosity, by righteous conduct, by self-restraint, and by self-discipline, one who acts accordingly lives in happiness and has no cause for remorse thereafter. Her Royal Highness Princess Mahavajrarajadhita, graciously designated by His Majesty the King, is now offering saffron robes to this congregation of monks as merit making. She placing the saffron robes on top of the Prapusayong connecting cloth. These are being placed, making a vertical angle between the Prapusayong and the saffron robes. The monks within receive the offerings and chanted the Sadapakon verses. As I have mentioned, the 47 honorific monks come from various parts of the country: Bangkok, Nakhon Ratchasima, Roi Et, Pathum Thani, Nonthaburi, Nong Bulampu, Ratchaburi, Cha Cheong Sao, Samut Prakan, to name but a few. According to the sermon delivered yesterday by Pratep Vajrapinan, titled Puchananutapa Katha, he mentioned of the verse that I have just read: by generosity, by righteous conduct, by self-restraint, and by self-discipline, one who acts accordingly lives in happiness and has no cause for remorse thereafter. This means that a person who performs deeds through generosity, through upright and consistent conduct, through self-restraint and through self-discipline lives in happiness, for such deeds will not later return to torment him. This verse teaches what kinds of actions are free from subsequent remorse and suffering. The law of karma, being the law of nature, holds that whatever action a person performs, that person inevitably receives the results of that action. It is a universal law from which no being in this world who remains bound by defilements can escape. Like energy reflected back to its source, every action invariably returns to its point of origin, the doer himself. This state of experiencing the results of one's actions is known in Buddhism as vipak, or the fruition of karma. The law of karma does not declare anything to be intrinsically good or evil. It simply teaches that every action inevitably bears its corresponding result. Results that bring distress, anxiety, and mental suffering are called akuson or unwholesome, whereas results that bring happiness, peace, and delight are called kuson or wholesome. Thus, kuson and akuson are merely designations describing the experience of the one who receives the fruits of karma. When one receives something pleasing, one naturally wishes to preserve it. When one receives something disagreeable, one naturally wishes to cast it away. Unwholesome karma is therefore compared to heat that burns within the heart. Accordingly, the Blessed Buddha expounded the Titta Pariyaya Sutta, the fire sermon, one of the principal discourses to the ascetics who worship fire, consisting of the three groups led by Uru Vela Kassapa. In this discourse, the Buddha demonstrated that fire symbolizes the various forms of inner burning. These arise through the process whereby the internal sense bases, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, come into contact with the external sense objects, forms, sounds, smells, taste, tangible objects, and mental objects. When the internal and external sense bases meet, consciousness or vinyan arises. From this consciousness, there follows mental formation or sankhan, giving rise to the perception that all things possess existence. That existence is designated and identified through perception or sanya, which is memory and recognition. And through this process, things are distinguished as good, bad, or neutral, giving rise to feeling or vedana, which may be wholesome, unwholesome, or neither, the latter being termed apayakrit, or morally indeterminate. Her Royal Highness Princess Sirivanvarinariratrakanya, graciously designated by His Majesty the King, is now offering 7 robes to the congregation of monks as royal merit making for the royal remains of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha, Narendiradebyavati, Krom Luang Rajasarinisiribajra, Mahavajrarajadhita. Sermon, the yesterday's sermon, delivered by The Venerable Pratep Vajrapinan, Assistant Abbot of Wat Pawanivet Vihan, talks of the inner heat, likened to fire, arises from the roots of unwholesomeness or akusala moon, namely greed or raka, hatred or tosa, and delusion or moha. Greed manifests as craving. When craving is not fulfilled, it gives rise to anger. Because of ignorance, one mistakenly perceives craving and existence to be beautiful and correct. Such attachment is called delusion. Therefore, if one wishes to reduce the afflictions of the mind and cultivate wholesome results, or kuson vipak, which are the source of all goodness, one should cultivate the four qualities mentioned in the opening verse: generosity, or than, or dana, righteous and consistent conduct, or samajariya, self-restraint, or sangyama, and self-discipline, or dhamma, each of which were explained in sequence by the sermon deliverer, Pratep Vajrapinan. We're now coming to the final part of the Royal Merit Making Ceremony. His Majesty the King has proceeded to the front of the royal altar to pay respect. This royal altar is enshrined the Buddha image according to the day of birth of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha, Narendiradebyavati. His Majesty the King then passes by the ranks of officials in attendance and proceeds to light the incense and candles of the mother of pearl offering trays before the altars, where the royal funeral monks will be chanting the Abhidhamma on both the eastern and western sides of the Piman Rattaya Hall. For the eastern side, the monks come from Bawon Vivet Vihan Temple, and for the western side from Anungkaram Temple. Using the outside of Piman Rattaya Hall within the ground of the Grand Palace, Their Majesties the King and Queen, accompanied by members of the royal family, are now leaving the Piman Rattaya Hall. I was mentioning about the royal sermon delivered by Mahavajrarajadhita. Yesterday, during the first part of the royal merit-making ceremony, on this occasion of the 50th day following the passing of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha, Narendiradebyavati, he mentioned about the dana or tan or generosity. He says that generosity means the giving or sharing of one's own possessions to others with the intention of providing assistance. The practice of generosity is regarded as the fundamental basis of merit in Buddhism. Television Poop Thailand would like to thank you for watching this live telecast of the Royal Merit Making Ceremony on the 50th day Panya Samawan in dedication to the royal remains of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati, Luang Rajasarinisiribajra, Mahavajrarajadhita at Piman Rattaya Hall in the Grand Palace. Please join us for our next live telecast of the Royal Merit Making Ceremony in dedication to the royal remains of Her Royal Highness Princess Bajrakitiyabha Narendiradebyavati on the 18th of September 2026, which is the Sattamawan 100th day of servants. Your narrator has been Captain Dr. Yongyut Mayalab. Thank you very much for watching this live telecast. Goodbye. Sawasdee krab.
สมเด็จพระเจ้าลูกเธอเจ้าฟ้าพัชรกิติยาภานเรนทิราเทพยวดีกรมหลวงราชสารินีสริพัฒน์มหาวชรราชธิดาณที่ตั้งพิมานรัตยาในพระบรมราชวังหมดเวลาลงแล้วนะคะดิฉันสิริสวภาเอกเอี่ยมศิลป์และคุณวิรศักดิ์ขอบเขตต้องขอลาไปก่อนสวัสดีค่ะ
และผู้บรรยายภาคภาษาอังกฤษนะครับร้อยเอกนายแพทย์ยงยุทธ มายาลาภสวัสดีครับ